Hey everyone, it's me, the e-bike cowboy, and for today's video, we're going to show you how to turn your pedals on an Onyx RCR into pegs. So, let's get to it. So here is your standard RCR. Well, not completely standard, did some modifications already, but here's how the pedals. See, one back there, one right here, and it pedals like a normal bike, but this bike is not really a good pedaler. That pedals are just there for show, and usually you would have them like this, but that doesn't make it very comfortable riding. It makes your legs feel cramped, but there is a way to make it more comfortable. Here, instead of pedals, there are now more pegs. John Angel was the first one to start doing that, so we came up with the idea from him. So now we're going to show you how to do this on my bike. So let's get to it. And here's the #1 e-bike mechanic, MX Electric himself.
Hi. Well, today we're doing to line up your pedals. So Shane already kind of told you what we're going to do. We already did it on mine. I zip tie through the little holes in the sprocket, and I put them around each side of the bracing here just to hold them like that. It takes usually 4 zip ties, and that keeps this pedal. It's easiest to work on the opposite side of the sprocket because you got the sprocket there, you're trying to grind, and you got all that stuff. So set your right side, your sprocket side pedal to the top on this side, and then because this side will want to work at it at the top, and then you can grind on the top instead of trying to grind from down below. So what you'll need for this is some zip ties and a wire cutter, a Dremel. Now this is what really makes it easy. You can use a sanding drum, you can use a file, but they take a long time. You can get a Dremel, makes a tungsten carbide carving bit, and it'll work on steel, masonry. I got the Max Life one just because it'll last a little longer. The regular ones run around $8. The extended, the Max Life one is $12. It's nice to have a spare because sometimes when you do not want to try to bend them, if you get them in a bind, because they're hardened, they will snap. So it's nice to have a spare, but you can get one and go from there. 11mm wrench to loosen up the bolt, and a plastic hammer or mallet and a regular hammer. So first thing is just loosen this 11mm nut off. Just loosen it up. There, you don't want to take it all the way off because you need to. What those are is the pin gets bigger on this end, so as they tighten, they get wedged in there. And so you got to pound them out. You can try with the plastic hammer first. So you want the nut to be loose, but you don't want to be smacking on the threads of the bolt because you can always buy another nut. Okay, it's stubborn. It's just like mine. So then you got to get your hammer, just whack it. There we go. It will deform the nut a little bit, but I was able to reuse mine, and that's the only way to get them out. So you can loosen it a little more, and then now tap it with the plastic hammer. There, now you'll be able to just take off the nut and slide out the pin. Take off the washer. There we go. And that's what the pin looks like. So So that's what slides down into the slot you're going to make. And then, so just set these aside. But see, you don't damage any of these threads. It smushes this a little bit, but once you tighten up, it's fine. If you have an extra nut, you can always put a new nut on it. So then you just pull this off, and then the slot is on the bottom, so you can feel with your fingers about how wide it is. And this is what we want the pedals. So both pedals are the same, so they're both at the top because that one's zip tied to the top. So then don't forget your safety glasses. The other thing with carbide cutters and this hardened steel, they fling out shavings, and the shavings are sharp, so you're going to get it on your arms. Don't start trying to rub it like that because they will dig in and scratch you. So best thing to do is if you got a compressor, just blow it off or go in the sink with some water and rinse it off, but don't try to wipe it off with your hand because they're sharp. Get your When I did this with the sanding drum and a file, it took over an hour. When I just did mine, it didn't even take 5 minutes with this cutter. So this is the way it's worth the $8 or $12, whichever one you get. So what we're gonna do first is you can feel down there and see about how far it is away. So we'll do the one cut on each side, about that far from there, and then the other one about here. And we'll do that first, and then you grind them down. So. Okay, now I have the edges kind of set. So we'll grind the middle so it stays level, and then we'll slowly bring these down. And it's better to try it a few times. You can kind of also feel with your finger that when you're getting it the same, but it's better to be a little smaller, because if it's too big, then the pin will just go right through the pedal crank. Okay, we've slotted it, and it took 5 minutes. Then put your crank arm, and when you're doing it, to make sure you get it right, or when I checked it the first time, so the flat goes so it fits in the slot. So this flat right there goes to the bottom. There we go. So as long as the threads are sticking out, just so you don't need it any looser than that. You don't want the whole pin to pull through. So okay, so now we're going to put this on. I got put the washer on, and then get your. As long as you can get that started, then you're good. You don't want it to push any farther than it has to. Grab your 11mm wrench, and then you start tightening. And as long as it's at, they're both at the top, and there you're good. And you just start tightening away. Okay, and then after you ride it a while, you might want to tighten it after you go riding and stuff, check the thing, but that's it. Now, if you ground it a little too deep, and the pin just, when you try to tighten it, the pin pulls all the way through, that means you made your notch a little too deep. Don't stress. Take a drill bit, a little bigger in the hole, drill it out. Well, I did that on the CTY too. And I went and got a 7/16 Allen head bolt from Lowe's, and a self-locking nut. I got them, I measured and got it so it was a little longer. I drilled out the crank arm, this hole right here, put the bolt through with a nut, and that was a little bigger, and tightened it down, and then it was fine because that bigger bolt filled up the gap. So if you do, cut a little too much, hey, no biggie, because the crank arm drill is really easy. So you just put a bigger drill bit, like I think I used 7/16 or the size just below it, and drilled through it, and then slid it on, put the bigger bolt and nut on, boom, done, and it worked just fine. So as you can see, it's on nice and tight. Now they're both, and then that's it. You don't got to get fancy with the sanding of the slot or anything because it doesn't matter. So on the CTY2, we were running 3/4 inch pedal extenders because when we used to ride our juices, our knees would rub on the seat. So we put pedal extenders just to get our feet and legs farther away. But you don't really need that on an Onyx. An Onyx, the way the seat, and you're not pedaling, and so I would not run them. And it just doesn't really do anything. And if you can see now on mine, see now they're both down like that. You got plenty of room for your knees. And if you put a extender, then as you lean over, your pedals are 3/4 of an inch out farther, so they're going to drag. But look at how far before you even get close. I mean, your bike's you're going to be falling if you're that far. So you have plenty of clearance to lean the bike, and that's it. So that's the little project of the day. I hope this works good for you. If you have any questions, just let Shane know. Okay, thank you. Too hip, gotta go.
Well, that was turning your pedals into pegs mod for the RCR. Also, this can also work for a CTY2 if you have one. It can go either way. So, as you can see, I am very comfortable. Probably best not to lean on the kickstand like that for far too long. But if you guys been enjoying my content, please consider to subscribe. If you like this video, why not consider giving it a thumbs up? And I will see you guys out on the trail. Adios, my amigos.